From the very beginning, man has been a builder. He started small, but his ambitions grew, and his capabilities grew, and grew. He didn't worry about the many modern regulations until recently. Power lines are an integral part of our lives today. They are everywhere because they carry electricity, which has become an essential service for our modern-day living. Because electricity is so commonly used, we sometimes fail to respect this awesome power that flows along our power lines.
Electricity is impossible for people to understand. But it's like water in a high-pressure pipe. You puncture the pipe, and out flows the water. In electricity, you touch the conductor with a body, with a machine, and out flows electricity, because electricity is always finding its way to ground. Well, what happens? It fills the machine, or if it happens to be a person, it fills him full of electrical current. But it's different in water in one way, in that it happens. Electricity moves with the speed of light. That's just like a blink of an eye, just like that. And all of a sudden, you've got electricity flowing through your body. And when it's flowing through your body, it's cooking you, really. As long as that electricity is up there on the insulators, everything is fine. That's why it has to stay up there.
Before starting any job, carefully inspect the site. Look for overhead wires or conductors. If there is a conflict with your job plans, contact your local utility for their advice in establishing a safe work procedure. Always consider all wires as electrically live. And always maintain proper clearances, as any contact could cause serious injury or death. Always maintain a clearance of at least 10 feet from overhead power lines. Higher voltage power lines require clearances greater than 10 feet, or 3 meters. Clearance regulations in your area may differ. It is up to you to be aware of these regulations for your own protection. Check with your local utility. Never operate any equipment beneath electric lines without adequate clearances. Use a safety observer to assist the operator to judge and maintain proper distance between your equipment and power lines. Cranes and booms coming in contact with power lines have caused serious injury and death. If your equipment should come in contact with the power line, attempt to swing the boom clear. If you cannot break contact, you would be safer to remain on the equipment and keep everyone on the ground away. If the operator stays on the machine, he may not be seriously injured. But any worker standing on the ground who comes near or touches the machine is usually the one who is injured or killed.
My arm contacted the primary, my foot contacted the neutral, or the grounds, and created a circuit through my body, blowing up my arm, the elbow of my arm, and a hole in my knee. I was out for a while, no pain. Went through 16 operations, skin grafts, cleanups, transfusions, stuff like that. And really the only thing I can tell you is that just watch yourself when you're around electricity.
If you must leave, do not step off. Jump free, and do not let any part of your body make contact with the machine. After your equipment has been safely cleared from the contact, always give it a complete safety check. Check your winch line, rubber tires, wheel and turret bearings, and vehicle wiring. These may become dangerous at a later date as a result of the electrical contact. Never move cranes with the boom in the raised position. Whenever you are operating your machine, always inspect the area for possible interference with overhead lines. Never attempt to raise or move electrical lines. Call your local utility for assistance.
We need to be cautious. We need to always treat it with respect. People that think they know something about electricity and sometimes little knowledge is a dangerous thing is the worst people that we have to deal with. And it's probably the people that are working around electrical lines and so forth in a building capacity, constructors, that this happens. In their enthusiasm to get a job done, they don't pay enough respect to electricity, and consequently they're faced with the tragedy resulting from electrical burn, electrocution, or maybe their machine burns up and they lose the machinery that they were doing work with. Accidents are expensive, and then there's been many cases where contractors, builders have been put out of business due to the fact that they've had a number of accidents. A work stoppage. People walk off the work. If you have an accident on the job, you probably lose a day's work for your whole crew. If you've got a big crew, that's at least a day's shot, practically. Then, in addition to that, of course, you have the likelihood that when the accident occurred, you've lost some machinery, you've lost some equipment, you've got to reorganize. There's inconvenience to the public. Erecting scaffolding is one of our big concerns. It's very, very difficult to judge from the ground exactly how far away from a building or a structure a line is. After all, electrical lines are very small in diameter, and even the people who have been in the business a long time make mistakes. And we say that we need at least a minimum of 10 feet between the line, conductors, and the scaffold. There's other problems involved in scaffolding. After all, why do you put scaffolding up? Obviously, you put it up to erect the building. In erecting the building, what are you going to be doing? You're going to be taking up sheeting, metal sheeting, that's conductive. You're going to be taking up pipes, and a lot of other things that are conductive that you could push into the line. The same with elevators. These here construction lift elevators are the same thing. when you dismantle a lift elevator, and the same thing applies to scaffolding, it's been there, we've been using it, and they forget all about the fact that there's an electrical line there. And they're taking it down, they're dropping it. There's a certain attitude that comes about that we find in people that have to dismantle things, and they tend to be more careless. So we've got to really exercise care all through the operation.
Operating water well drilling or oil drilling rigs close to power lines is potentially dangerous. Never allow the equipment to come near the lines. Remember, it's the worker on the ground who is usually hurt. And be sure that the machine is out of reach of power lines when you are repairing or cleaning it. When transporting high loads, check load height, plan proposed route, and contact your local utility for information about power lines crossing your route. Never allow anyone other than qualified utility personnel to raise wires to clear the high load. Check for power line location before raising, lowering, or handling pipes, reinforcing rods, or other metal materials. A moment of carelessness could cost a life. Before unloading any equipment, look to make sure there are no electric wires overhead. Never touch any wire that has fallen on the ground. It does not have to spark to be lethal. Post a guard on the scene to protect bypassers as well as your own workers. Call your local electric utility immediately.
My left hand was wrapped around the wires, and I was hung up on those wires by that fashion, what seemed like a lifetime. The fingers on this left hand, there's one that turned completely black, and one was completely crisp. You could have, in fact, broken it off at the time. On my right arm, there's a point of contact. That's where the electricity came out, and the right hand was where it went in. So this type of operation, what you see here in electrical burns is obvious, but the other thing is they take skin off other parts of your body to repair what's left. And it was about a 4-month from spring till fall of that year I was in the hospital before I was released. And even after that, there was times where I had to go back to get more surgery done. So it's quite an elaborate procedure, and it's one that's not too pleasant, to say the least.
Today, more and more lines are going underground. Power, phone, and gas lines. So if you plan any excavating, find out first where these lines are located. Call your local utility. They will assist in locating the underground facilities, helping you to avoid possible injury, costly damage, and time delays. Once the location has been identified and marked, the utility personnel may recommend hand digging to expose the underground cables before mechanical digging equipment continues. Play it safe. Avoid damaging underground cables, which results in personal injury, inconvenience, and costly repair. If your equipment should come in contact with an underground cable, try to remove your machine away from any contact with the cable. If your equipment cannot be removed, you should remain on the machine. Keep all personnel away and out of the excavation site, and get someone to notify the utility.
One of the things that we all see, and it's particularly in the cities, is the erection of signs. Signs seem to be everywhere. And sometimes they're very dangerously close to electrical lines of high lethal capacity. And there's no need for that. If the sign erector would contact the utility man, he would direct whether or not the sign could and should be safely erected there. There's not only the danger to the worker putting up the sign, but after the sign is put in place, if it's dangerously close to an electrical conductor, we have the added problem that maybe in a windstorm, the line will blow over, and we've had this happen on occasion, touch the sign. And then you have, if the line doesn't trip out automatically, the whole sign is energized, and so now you have an added hazard to the public at large. So I can't emphasize too much the need for great caution and care when erecting signs and keeping signs in good repair. We talk a lot about high voltage lines, the voltage on the pole, but we forget the fact that the voltage that you use in the house, the voltage that you use to operate your construction tools, that voltage is a killer. In fact, that voltage kills more people, more persons than any other voltage. And there's no need for that.
Low voltage circuits are designed and built to serve you safely, but unauthorized repair, abuse, and neglect may cause low voltage circuits to become a major cause of injury and death. Check out your electrically operated power tools and equipment. Extension cords have the largest number of faults. These cords are often cut and not properly repaired. Too often they are taped back together in a slipshod manner. The result is a poor connection or no connection on the ground terminal. Check daily. It could save your life. Power tools are found to be faulty in too many cases because of abuse and general wear and tear. Never pick up tools by cords. This pulls the wires out of the terminals and is a dangerous practice because faults are not visible. Have tools checked for leakage and proper grounding by a competent repair shop or a qualified tradesman, and use circuits protected by ground fault interrupters, which senses current leakage and in a fraction of a second shuts off the electricity, protecting you from injury. Tools which appear unsafe should not be used. Have only qualified tradesmen install temporary power supplies on your construction site. Check your tools and cords before each use. It could save your life. Handling ladders, wooden or metal, near overhead wires can be very dangerous. If you should make contact with an overhead wire, you run the risk of receiving a serious or fatal shock.
The biggest concern that we have when it comes to construction workers is that there's a tendency, because they use electricity in every imaginable way, that they lose respect for the fact that it's a lethal killer. And in losing respect for it, they don't treat it as they know they should treat it. We know, and they know, if they only take time to think about it, that electricity has to be treated with respect, and like every other aspect of the job, the safe way is the only way to go if they expect to be here today, tomorrow, and on.